It's been 10 long years. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 10-year anniversary of the A Link to the Past randomizer. We are on with 10 days and 20 races to celebrate the history of A Link to the Past randomizer. I hope you're all incredibly ready because we are incredibly hyped. And we are about to start with the first race from 10 years ago, June 2nd, 2016. And who could be better suited to commentate through that than the legendary Muffins themselves? Eclectic doing the tracking on top. Take it away, Muffins, it's all yours. Enjoy the stream.
Thank you very much, Tris. Yeah, so welcome everybody. This is going to be an interesting one. This is, as Tris said, this is the first day of our 10-year A Link to the Past celebration, A Link to the Past randomizer celebration. And in this case, we are playing version 2 of the randomizer. This is the second version. The first version had a few critical bugs, and this one was released the same day. So it's still 10 years to the day for this one. We have no idea, a lot of us, on what this is going to look like. This, as I said, we have basically no quality of life here. We've got our regular cutscenes that are starting off, as we can see. We're going to have Japanese text boxes that you'd have never have seen normally.
Hello, Mrs. X.
You can see that you can have a maximum of
Oh my
999 rupees, no going over 1,000.
Mashing practice.
We don't allow that at this day and age. And we're going to see how things go. We'll likely see some bugs. We'll likely see some issues. Hopefully we don't see any soft locks, and hopefully the seed is completable. We do start off with a lamp for both of our runners. This is very good because, as you can see, we're also playing Standard, and that's not a choice. Standard was the only mode that was available in this version of the randomizer. There are 0 configurable options here. We can't set anything like key sanity, none of that, no entrance. This didn't exist back in 2016. We've just got our regular standard mode. So we're going to see what we get from Uncle, and of course it is a sword and shield. If I'm not mistaken as well, in this version of the randomizer, swords are not actually randomized. At least definitely the one on Uncle is not. So we're going to proceed through the more familiar scenario, familiar beginning of the game that a lot of people are used to. Along with not having any quality of life means that we don't have quick swap, which is something a lot of people are used to, so that doesn't matter so much right now while we have only one item, but as soon as we get a second one, it's going to be interesting when people realize that and have to rebuild that muscle memory. We don't have MSUs, we have vanilla audio only, and we don't have fast ROM either, so that traditional vanilla lag is present just as you'd expect. So I briefly entered these seeds just long enough to make sure that they didn't crash and that they, well, I could do something. But that was the extent of what I did, so we're really hoping that everything works fine and we don't end up with a completely unbeatable seed. We're playing these seeds as unranked and not streaming required. Obviously we have 2 people streaming here, but they're unranked, which means we've asked people to stick to the rules, but we're not going to be upset if people have to break the traditional racing rules to be able to complete the seed. In fact, it would be great to see that kind of thing, just as an extra fun treat. So there is our another traditional text box telling us how we can use our map. Not shuffled, just in its regular dungeon. We, of course, didn't get our boomerang there, so things are randomized. We're not just stuck in an unrandomized seed. Our small key, of course, as well, was randomized, so... So we have a long series of this, so this is the first race in our 10 days. 10 days for 10 years of A Link to the Past randomizer. And as the days proceed, we'll actually be working our way through the different versions and seeing some of the newer developments and the innovations that people have made towards the randomizer. This will be our most basic seed. Things will increase in modes as we go on, and an increase in the amount of settings that we have as they become available in the versions that we've had, and that will end up in a couple of slightly crazy seeds, but nothing too intense at the end. But for some people who may not have followed up with some of the more recent versions of the randomizer and the more recent forks, there'll be some treats in for you later as well. And for each of the versions, we've got 2 races on each day. So the first one of them is an EU race at 8 PM CEST, as we are starting now. And the second race is going to be one that starts 9 PM Eastern Standard Time in the States. That should hopefully give people enough coverage for the whole of the States to be able to join. So there will be another race on for those of you that will be awake at what is 3 AM for me, but a little bit later in the evening for the people in the US. And as a special treat for that particular race, we've got Tyler Salt, who is in the chat at the minute, who will be on comms, and they will be joined by Dessyreqt. And Dessyreqt is actually the developer of this first version of the randomizer, and so with a bit of luck, if you get to hang around there, you'll get to hear some interesting lore and some development stories about how things were, how things came to be. And so that should also be another very interesting one. So we've got a pretty standard escape here. We've had nothing interesting. Just a couple of rupees so far. And some more rupees for us as well. Now, if I'm not mistaken as well, this early on, we actually also don't have shuffled the NPCs. So that means that the bottle vendor and Zora potentially as well are not shuffled. We're going to have to see. As much as I did attempt to dig through as many of the patch notes as I could to work out what existed and when it came in, there's a lot of the last 10 years worth of render. So we'll just have to see. So we got no bombs, which is a bit unfortunate, and no boots, so our runners are going to have to come back here at some point to get these chests in the back of Escape. We're making our way out here into Sanctuary, with Akuhaish being the first out. And Gilgamesh following closely behind. Having fun spamming through our regular text boxes that we just don't see these days. None of this text is particularly interesting. We don't need to worry about it too much in the randomizer, so don't worry if you don't read Japanese. And we start off with a bow in Sanctuary, so that already pushes us in a particular direction if that's where we want to go. Akuhaish saves and quits immediately, so potentially feeling like the Eastern Palace play. We've got our regular map that is telling us that we should now be going to Kakariko to find out where we should be following next, and we do not have our pendant and crystal markers on the map, and it's quite possible that they are not randomized either at this point in time. I do remember seeing a changelog somewhere that specified that the actual prizes were shuffled, and that might be added later. So this could just be regular crystals and pendants, and we'll see how long it takes people to work that one out. I gave people no information about this other than they were playing the version 2 of the randomizer, and that adds a lot to the fun here. Everyone's re-experiencing this and relearning what it means to play this as we're together. Yeah, so we'll say thanks to Eclectic, who jumped in at the last minute to get the tracking going for this race. As much as I could do it all on my own, I appreciate it. We did have the wiggly mushroom, which is great, and mushroom in vanilla spot in Lost Woods, and Akuhaish is indeed headed straight into Eastern Palace. We get our big key with some text telling us just how we should use that, but definitely not in its vanilla location. Yeah, So it's very likely that none of the freestanding items are randomized, and I'm about 90% sure that the items that we would traditionally be able to quick swap between or share the same slot, such as the shovel and the flute, and the mushroom and powder, are not shuffled either. This is to prevent you actually getting them at the same time, prevent you overwriting one with the other. Swords is a good question, because there was definitely a period where swords could be downgraded, and I'm unsure if in this version, as I said earlier, whether they're even randomized. So we could be looking for a Master Sword on pedestal, depending on whether we get some Dark Lord access as well. So Gilgamesh has taken a slightly more regular approach to this and has gone out of Sank into Kakariko, going for item density. Akuhaish, of course, has come straight to Eastern Palace, as we know, got that bow. Seems pretty obvious that this is a good place to go. Some speculation that Saha may also be vanilla, and that will be a big leg up for Akuhaish in that case if we get the boots this early. It is entirely possible, because NPCs they're different than the regular chests, so they were going to be randomized differently, and as I said, this is as early as it gets. It's working, we haven't crashed, everything is good in the world. So Gilgamesh, okay, we got just 10 arrows from the bottle vendor, so looks like that one is not vanilla. As I said, I'm learning here as well. Despite the fact that I was the one that rolled these seeds, I did not have the time to vet 20 different seeds, and I didn't have time to play through one of them, let alone any of them, just while I was getting everything ready to go. So there we get a heart container and a green pendant as expected on Akuhaish's side. So we'll see if Saha is indeed going to hand over a pair of boots here. But we at least have the bombs to get the items out of the back as well. So there are a few other changes that are less visible, but for example, auto-tracking. Our modern trackers are used to a very different layout of memory, and therefore we may find that people that are auto-tracking may not get the experience that they expect. Particularly surrounding bottles and bows are some of the things that are hit a bit more than that. I slightly debated doing some debugging on my tracker and seeing if I could make sure that it was functional for these, but there was already a lot of effort on getting 10 different randomized versions working, so yeah, so we did not get boots, but a glove there is very useful. So that pendant dip is very likely going to be required. It's definitely required because we need to get all the way up Death Mountain later. So Gilgamesh will have to head up there soon, but still hitting up them higher densities. Akuhaish taking that glove straight to the back of Escape and is going to get them extra items from the back we couldn't get to begin with. Just some money in the back of Escape, and so far just money, a lot of money in Mini Moldorm Cave. But there's our Moon Pearl. So the big question, of course, is that second sword going to turn up at some point, or is it actually on pedestal, like I am slightly remembering based off of a changelog at some point? We've got Akuhaish heading up to go straight. Oh, we're gonna check Aga instead of going straight up the mountain here. Yeah, so glitches, there are very little that is going to change in terms of glitches. The only thing we do have is we have some protection against certain glitches in newer versions of Randomizer that do not exist in this version of Randomizer. The primary one of them is fake flippers, is something that if you're in fake flipper state and you switch your overworld screen, if you get knocked out of fake flipper state, you'll actually, it'll take you time to spawn back to where you originally were while the game kind of works out where your character was. But in the original version, you can move around there and you can cause some problems. In the modern version of the randomizer, you're stuck in place. And yeah, as hinted into chat, Fake Dark World potentially not just patched out in this version as well, so it is more than likely that if someone dies in the Dark World dungeon, that we'll see some interesting things going on as well. Yeah, and there we go. That's another one. So Jingle Glitch is another glitch that is patched out of the non-glitched versions of the current randomizer. This is a glitch where you basically transition from between two screens on the same frame as a jingle happens, like when a torch goes out, for example, and that can cause all of your sprites to despawn and some other nonsense. That is actually completely patched out in the newer versions of Randomizer, just as a quality of life in the non-glitched versions. In the glitched versions, we actually allow that, and that can be useful for some cases. So Akrohaish picks up the hook shot here, so is on a bit of a roll. Unfortunately, doesn't have the mirror that Gilgamesh picked up from Kakariko. And without the hammer, we're not going to be able to head all the way to Tower of Hera here, but still, there's a lot of items on East Death Mountain which we're likely going to head over to. The lack of quick swap is going to be the hardest for a lot of our more modern players our more recent players to get used to doing. That is a muscle memory that very few people that don't play NMG still have. But we're doing well. We've got a reasonable amount of items already. Gilgamesh did also find the Ice Rod in Kakariko, along with that mirror and the Moon Pearl. So we're not for an Ice Rod hunt today. And Akuhaish does find our other boomerang. Was also a blue boomerang, so I'm very curious if the one in Kakariko for Akuhaish and the one on East Death Mountain for Gilgamesh are gonna be progressive or not. We will see about that. Maybe the red boomerang just doesn't exist in this version. I don't know. You don't know. It's fun for all of us. Yeah, so some other differences being highlighted in chat. So no chests in Waterfall variant. Indeed, this was added, I think, in version 6 or 7 of the randomizer. So we're not going to see any of those. I did start to put together a changelog, and I don't think I have it kicking around at the minute, unfortunately. But Gilgamesh is in Eastern Palace here. Gonna head and do the big key chest. This is something Akuhaish did not do, so gonna be interesting to see if we had anything left here. I wasn't counting dungeon items at the time, although Akuhaish does have 2 marked off, so it's quite possible that this is just a compass for Gilgamesh's efforts. And that's all Akuhaish can do up here without that. Without that mirror. I have just noticed that Akuhaish's tracker has, of course, marked off the green pendant in Ice Palace, because, as I mentioned before, the SRAM layout is a bit different here, and the changes mean that what we would expect in newer auto trackers doesn't exactly match what the memory layout in the current version looks like. So hopefully this doesn't trip people up too much, and they are aware. Yeah, so indeed, I think I think we have forced heart containers on the boss prizes, and this is possibly what I was reading in some changelogs earlier. And yeah, indeed, I think Akuhaishi's tracker picked up the Titan Smiths when we had the regular gloves picked up. Okay. Yep, indeed. Auto Tracker's reading memory is how your Auto Tracker works. We don't have little gremlins inside the tracker watching you play. You don't have to worry about that. I promise. I promise there is nothing untoward in my tracker. Yeah, so thanks to Codeman, I've got the changelog in front of me right now, so we can go through some of the things. Yeah, although fake Dark World is fixed, it does appear that version 3 fixed fake Light World, which is where you save and quit in a Dark World dungeon, so that'll be an interesting one to see, because it wouldn't surprise me to see people saving and quitting in some Dark World dungeons at some point. Version 3 also fixed boomerang and shield downgrades, so not too sure what's going to happen, considering we saw both of our players get a boomerang, which of course haven't tracked properly on a tracker either. On the plus side, we will not get a Titan Smith's downgrade to Power Gloves. We already have our Power Gloves, so we know that that's not something we have to worry about. And in version 1, it did include chest items, any bottle vendor, the bottle vendor, Saha, Flute, and Sick Kid. The Flute, Stumpy, Sick Kid, Purple Chest, Hobo, Catfish, and Zora, and Old Man are randomized. We already saw Old Man being randomized on Akuhaishi's side with getting the hook shot there. So indeed, in version 7, is when pendants, crystals, swords, and capacity upgrades were included in the randomization. So might take our runners a little bit of time to realize that their swords are vanilla. English text boxes, actually, they also came in between version 2 and version 7. As a little spoiler for the rest of the week, originally we were going to be... my original plan had version 2 into version 7, but I squeezed in some other versions in between, and version 7 had to unfortunately take an early drop there. So this will be the only version from Dessyreqt that we're playing this week. We did see our book there, and we do see our mitts on Gilgamesh's side. Now, I am pretty sure chess game, even though there is it is randomized, I'm pretty sure this is your vanilla chance of getting the prize, and not too sure how we're gonna know whether this has been obtained or not. Maybe the tracker will check off. That would be useful. Otherwise, we might just have to keep going until we get a different sound or a very obvious version of an item. Curious to see how long Gilgamesh is going to be going on this. We're done now. In version 5, we... No, okay, in version 5 was when the treasure chest game and digging game were added to the randomization locations. So in this case, it's just not even randomized. At least we realized after only a handful of attempts, and we weren't there for a lot longer. We do see our hammer there in Village of Outcasts. So them Titan mitts are going to be necessary for Aguhaish. Okay, so Saha had mitts for Aguhaish, for Gilgamesh, so I'm not too sure why he picked up the regular glove, and why Aguhaish doesn't have them yet, though. We'll find out. Yeah, so the very early versions of the randomizer, they use a particular version of the filling algorithm that means certain locations are very heavily weighted to have items, and Hype Cave is one of those, and hence the name Hype Cave. It often had a lot of very good items. Okay, perfect. So Aguhaish seemingly does have his mitts, which is good. We know they're necessary. We've got no randomized items here. We are throwing in our bow and arrow. Hopefully we're gonna get that back. Yeah, here we go. We get our bow and arrow back. Don't want to try and throw anything else in though, and off we go. So Zora is randomized in this version. We do have the money to do Zora as well. Gilgamesh rapidly approaching that 999 rupees though. Gonna want to spend some of them so we don't waste any money. Gilgamesh, meanwhile, is heading through Village of Outcasts. Aguhaish agreeing to pay the 500 rupees here to King Zora. Much more polite in this version of the game than he was in in the newer versions where he just steals your 500. A very interesting switch in footwear there for Aguhaish. Because I knew we had flippers, so I was a little surprised to see the flippers there, but the camouflage flippers into boots. Exactly what we're hoping for in this kind of seed. This is clearly just progressive footwear, flippers turning into boots. It's definitely not an issue in this early version of the randomizer. Yeah, so I've been playing A Link to the Past randomizer for coming up on 8 years now. I think my first seed was played back in 2018, and I caught the bug then and haven't managed to put it down, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I very much enjoy playing it. Some of the people around will have been here for the full 10 years. Blind looking a little bit different here, the palette difference. So, yeah, I may not have seen some of these earliest versions, but I've seen a lot of the development that's happened over the years, and hopefully we're going to get everyone to re-experience some of that this year. Blind's palette very likely different here because of the palette that Gilgamesh has chosen. Having some colour overlap is my assumption for why we've got a colour difference there. Aguhaish with them boots has gone and got our book. Now, we do have the mitts and we have the mirror, which means we can save the smith, and if I am correct about the swords not being randomized, Gilgamesh may just go straight from fighter sword to tempered sword here. This is back in the days before there were any blind puns, so you'll have to make up something funny for yourself for this one. But as we all know, blind is a scripted fight. You see that script being played out very nicely by Gilgamesh. Nothing has changed here, and 10 slashes is all we need. So we know that Desert Palace is going to be rewarding us with a pendant here. Gilgamesh sitting through our wonderful crystal cutscene that we have removed in the newer versions of Randomizer. We're going to have 6 more of these to play through. As you can see, this very early version of the randomizer was about as early as it gets. You know, we've shuffled the items. That's about all we've got around to do. But very big innovation at the time, and was obviously the seed that set the stage for a lot of people to come play in this game. We have a very active community now, a lot of racing, and a lot of wildly different modes that didn't exist. And over the next 10 days, if you tune in, you'll be able to see as and when they come up. We'll be seeing the most of the developments across the 10 years. Not every mode is going to make an appearance, not every setting is going to make an appearance, but the more prominent ones, as and when they were introduced in their earliest versions where possible, we'll be seeing. When I chose the versions to use, I kind of tried to go with the first version where a mode was introduced and somewhat stable, in case there were any large game-breaking bugs. So, Dig and Game is not randomized. Gilgamesh is going to have a fun time trying to get as many digs out as possible, and is going to be very upset when we get absolutely nothing. Or very lucky, and we're going to get a heart container. A heart piece, sorry, yeah. We don't. In the newer versions of the randomizer, we have a cap on the amount of digs that are required, but in this old version, and with as with NMG, there is no cap. You get nothing for the first X amount of digs. I don't remember the numbers, so my apologies. And then it's a percentage chance on every dig after that. But that does not mean that you're going to get something. And Gilgamesh is going to head back and go for a second attempt. With a bit of luck, we'll get something. Yeah, I think if I were in Gil's shoes here, knowing that I'm not getting it guaranteed, I think I'm leaving. This is a full 30 seconds spent each time. Yeah, hopefully Akuhaish realizes the mitts. They are on his start screen when he has the menu to change items. I did see a slight head shake there, so maybe we noticed it on that one. So, nicely done for Akuhaish, takes down Lamolus. Gets the heart container and a pendant as a reward. Okay, so Gil is has handed in the smith, and we're gonna see if we get a nice sword here. We have taken the sword now. I do hope. Okay, I was slightly worried Gilgamesh was just going to run away, not knowing that he had no sword. and straight to tempered we go. No progressive swords in this version of the game for us. Passing up on that Master Sword on pedestal. Yeah, so unfortunately for Akuhaish as well, we don't have the inventory screen on the start screen either. In the more modern versions of Randomizer, we only have one save file instead of 3, and the extra space is filled with a layout of your inventory so you can see what you have on that. That would also help show Gilgamesh, Akuhaish, sorry, that he has the mitts already. But we'll hope that he picks up on that sooner or later. Meanwhile, we're going to go for our third dungeon here. Going to head and clear out Tower of Hera. We're going to find out we have no hint here. Of course, it's in Japanese, and even if we could read it, it isn't a hint either. It is just your vanilla text right there. So we don't know what's there. Okay, we see Gilgamesh talking to Stumpy. And we get a shovel. Gonna go straight and dig up that quite potentially flute. Yep, there we go. So, Herapot here by Akuhaish, technically wouldn't have seen in one of these seeds back in the day. It's a much more modern discovery. Going for the spin speed version here. Can be a bit finicky. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh is gonna go hand in that purple chest. Nope, we're heading back to activate our food first, sorry. Akuhaish switches to the bread pot and gets that first try. Nice easy setup there. So even with the next version that you will see tomorrow, things are going to be quite different. So I suggest people tuning in to see how things go over the years and how the development changes. Just because it's newer doesn't mean it's bug-free either. Newer versions were added, new bugs were introduced when we did more complicated things. The patches for these very first versions of the game were about 2 kilobytes in size compared to the 128 kilobytes that we have in more regular, in more modern patches, sorry. So big differences between the versions of the randomizer. Gil getting 20 rupees. Forest Troubles on the purple chest. And nicely taken down Moldom on Akuhaish's side. Now we pick up our third pendant here on Aku's side. And if Aku does not know that he has the mitts, we're most likely going to see a play to pedestal into CT here. On Gilgamesh's side, we do head into Hype Cave, so let's see what we get today. Gilgamesh now at the rupee cap and finds our other mitts in Hype Cave. So this is a bit out of the way, but still possible for Akuhaish to get. With that hammer in Vu, this is a bit awkward for Akuhaish, but after defeating Aga, if we don't realize we have the boots, the mitts, sorry, we can still cross over to West Darkworld from East Darkworld. We do have that hook shot allowing us to do that, and we can work our way all the way around. There is our Master Sword for Akuhaish. we not only get the PED pull, but we get the PED text as well, and we get to sit here and listen to the lore of the original game. Yeah, and with that, it looks like Akuhaish is heading to Hyrule Castle. Most likely doesn't realize we already have the myths. We'll be happy to see them in Hype Cave when we get there, but on the plus side, he's not hard locked out of the seat. On Gilgamesh's side, we're heading over and doing Palace of Darkness. Again, we have a slightly more polite monkey on this side. Somehow did not get hit there. No idea how. But Kiki does not just steal your money. He actually asks if you want to pay him the 10 and then the remainder to open up pod. We do have the bow, we do have the hammer, and we've got our lamps, so this is fully in logic and fully completable. The base logic is mostly the same. There are some differences that were made over the time, but nothing that I am nothing that's coming to mind that's going to be of particular relevance. I will note that version 7 does have a changelog that says reworked casual logic again, soft locks should be much more rare, so let's hope we don't have one of them soft locks here somewhere. We know all of our dungeons now, so we know that we're going to need Gain of Samaria, we're going to need the Fire Rod, and we're going to need one of our medallions. Most likely two, because they're quite possibly not shuffled. So, Akuhaish is on the NMG path here. We've done all of our 3 Light World dungeons, heading through Castle Tower. Gonna get another nice lore dump to that on the pyramid, and Aku is actually lucky that PED was in logic in this case, because if PED was not available, let's say available rather than in logic, if PED was not available, he may never have managed to get to the Dark World, because he is not aware that he already has the mids. So that sword allowing him to get into CT, relatively important hint. Yeah, it's a toss-up. It's hard to know whether you'd realize it or you would chalk it up to this is broken and I can't do anything. I very much did explain to people that there is the potential for broken seeds. I didn't play through them all. Yeah, so one thing that Akuhaish is getting to show off here is the version 1 of the randomizer introduced the 0 blue balls patch. So we are going to get no blue balls here for Akuhaish. It was later that this was decided that it was not being kept in the randomizer, and that we would go back to having our regular random blue balls. And here comes our lore dump on top of the pyramid. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh is heading into the Helmasaur King fight. So this does put Akuhaish in the Dark World. His choices are not particularly great. No hammer means that Odd isn't ideal. You're most likely going to want to head over to Vu at this point in this situation, but we'll see what he's doing. On the plus side, he does have these boots. Gilgamesh, a well-known hater of Zora, is probably not going to get these boots for a while. Oh, Gil capped rupees. We got that 600 out of Hype Cave to cap the rupees. We're just lower now because we had to open with Kiki. Getting our second cutscene of the day. Okay, Catfish giving us Quake. So nice unrandomized there. So rupees were randomized, were allowed to go up to 9999 in version 4, actually. Like Akuhaishi is going to hand in our mushroom right here. Pretty sure we're going to get a magic powder out of this one. Again, at this point in time, we didn't have a way to switch between those two items that take up the same inventory slot, so yeah, there we go. We get a nice powder. So one of the downsides of dropping version 7, in version 6, there's a very niche change that Magic Bat had a 1 in 3 chance to give quarter magic instead of half magic. An interesting decision at the time to add that in. I'm not too sure whether that is a 1/3 chance per seed or if it's baked into the seed. So quarter magic, it's baked in. Okay, so everyone will be getting it, which is good. You getting half magic while your opponent got quarter magic would be a bit rough. But we're not going to see that in this version, given we don't have that in. Yep, so interesting key logic here with the key in the pod maze. This is before we had such strict key logic that we wouldn't get it in here. That does, of course, mean there are possibilities for soft locks in here if people are not too careful, and people may be a bit too confident with their current version of the randomizer and not necessarily think about that kind of thing, but that's what we're here for. Okay, Akuhai's heading all the way over to Fu here. I did scout Lumberjack, but I missed what it was earlier. Given it's freestanding, it's very likely just a heart piece. Okay, Gilgamesh picking up the fire rod there in the pod big key chest. Let's really hope Akuhaishi doesn't have a bit of a mess with keys. In this case, it's fine. The key in the pod dark maze is obtainable because we hammer yump to it all the time. But if you didn't know that, you could be in a little bit of trouble in that case. We'll see how many times it takes Akuhaishi to realize that maybe this chess game is not shuffled, is not randomized. Or do we just assume we got it on the second chest as we normally do? We'll never know. Gilgamesh uncharacteristically heading to Zora here. We have other things we could be doing. decides we don't want to throw our bow in there. We're going to keep it to ourselves. This is not randomized. Why are we even here? Akuhaish does pick up the hammer. That is going to make coming to... it's going to make coming to the Dark World a bit easier now. And Gilgamesh says goodbye to those boots. We don't want them. We don't need them. Let's hope we don't have something important on the GT torch. Heading into Ice Palace here. This is fully clearable, fully completable. We have everything we need. We don't have Samaria for any icebreaker shenanigans that you would never have seen in one of these seeds in the past, but yeah, indeed, as Kara points out, we don't need the book. Well, we potentially might need the book. Because if the medallions are needed, if they're vanilla and the medallions are in their vanilla location, boots are hard required because we know our crystals are also vanilla. We'll see if Gil runs out of locations before Akuhaish finishes. Yeah, I fully expect them to be the vanilla requirements, and I'm pretty sure that the tablets are not randomized yet either. Randomized medallion requirements didn't come until version 5, so they are definitely going to be vanilla. We've already seen one vanilla medallion on Catfish. Although Catfish was randomized, that was just a chance in this case. Catfish was included randomized in version 1 of the randomizer. And indeed, Ether and Bombos were not randomized until version 4, so them boots are hard required for Gilgamesh today. I'm not sure what's gone on at Aku's side here, because there was no maiden there. That's a problem. We definitely had a maiden on Gilgamesh's side. We've got our Dark World music here, so we're not in a fake world. We haven't patched in follower shuffle, so I'm not entirely sure what might have happened to this one. And I see no references to anything like this in the changelog. So yep. It is indeed very likely due to the invisible follower that you get from getting Master Sword, which was fixed in version 4 of the randomizer. I'm actually unsure if that is fixable, and will potentially give Akuhaish an issue with attempting to enter Palace of Darkness as well. Because if we've already got a follower, we can't have Kiki either. Yeah, with a bit of luck, we'll head down to Swamp Palace, but Pod is a bit more of a lucrative play here. Picking up our mitts that are second mitts. Okay, and we are going to head to Swamp here. This should fix things out for Akuhaish. We will have to head back to Thieves Town, but Gilgamesh is giving him all the time in the world by ignoring them boots on Zora, so we're all good. Yeah, the first glove did look like a glove. It didn't look like mitts, so there is zero fault on Aku's side here to believe that that they did not have mitts. The tracker did actually pick this one up correctly, but I cannot blame anyone for trusting their eyes more than the tracker when I told them the trackers may not work in this version of the randomizer, so... Okay, so Akuhaish also capped out on money here. Both of our runners at 999 rupees, thanks to that 600 rupees in Hype Cave. Loaded. Not a worry in the world. So Gilgamesh is up to 3 crystals at this point in the time. But we really need them boots, so we have no idea how things are going to go. Gilgamesh does head into Skull Woods here. We've got the fire rod, we've got our sword, we've got everything we need to finish this out. So the main item we're still looking for, given we know that our medallions are vanilla, we know where the boots are, I think we're just looking for that Cane of Samaria. And then we're in no mode. Gonna be checking right side swamp here, left side swamp, sorry, on Aku's side, while Gilgamesh works our way through Skull Woods. Yeah, we could go get our silvers for free from Pyramid Fairy. Of course, depends whether our runners realize that the fairies are not shuffled and then decide whether they actually want the silvers or not. They may decide that as we do in NMG, we will forsake these for time. Or we may decide that, you know what, we're tired with the seed and we just want silvers to make finishing things out easier. Nothing on left side swamp here, just a bit of ammunition, and heading into the moth fight on Gilgamesh's side. Yeah, I mean, if you're on Akuhaish's side and you realize the swords are vanilla, you may just decide to screw doing the smith and head straight and get your gold sword and your silvers from Pyramid Fairy instead. Getting yourself a bit of time save there. Of course, having tempered for the other dungeons would be very useful, so not necessarily a time save, but we'll see how things go. So another one of these more modern glitches we're getting to see here, diver down on Akuhaish's side. Just a bit too slow on the change in direction there in the water. That's much better. Another glitch you would have never have seen in the older version of the randomizer, not because it didn't exist, but because we didn't know about it. It works perfectly fine. That's quite possible. We may need tempered to be able to get our gold sword. I'm not entirely sure, given how things are, but given that it's not touched, it's most likely that we actually do. So. Yeah, I cannot believe they didn't tell us, patching in all of these glitches and kept them secret. Easter egg, you know, how long does it take people to find it? There's probably glitches that they put in and they're laughing about and we don't know. And we get some nice slow hook shots here. Akuhaish is going to have to be a little bit careful here on 1.5 hearts. In this version of the randomizer, the bottles were not randomized with any contents either, so we have 3 empty bottles, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, all the puffs gone. Just missed the final spin there. But pulls it off nicely. So this should fix Akuhaish's invisible follower issue. That is a very niche bit of knowledge, so I'm not expecting Akuhaish to beeline back to Thief's Town at this point in time. Most likely going to clear that up with Skullwoods. Maybe head to Pod now. Going to Pod now would be ideal. We'll get that fire rod from the big key chest, and then can go clear up both Skullwoods and Thief's Town. Gilgamesh is going to follow Akuhaish into Swamp Palace here. The only thing of use we got here was the cape. Yeah, boots were an interesting one because we got our flippers early, and Zora threw another pair at us, which turned into boots when we picked them up. Aku picking up a heart piece here. Totally reasonable. Nope. We don't care. We're still 2 away from a refill anyway, so... But we are heading to Pod, and this will be good. We will get our fire rod and push us back towards food. So I alluded to this earlier, but given this race is now ongoing. The next version that we're going to be playing, the version tomorrow. So we have one more race of this version, version 2, for our US friends at 9 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. CEST, you will see the second version that we have picked, and that is going to be version 18 of the VT randomizer. This was the version just before the change in fill algorithm was implemented, so we should still have wild hype caves and the like. But this was one of the earliest versions that was played on the traditional website that you're all used to, ALttPR.com. Back there it was a different URL. And this was one of the earlier versions that also brought in open mode. So we won't be seeing a second standard seed tomorrow. We'll be seeing our first open mode, the first time we could have had it in one of these versions. Surprisingly, this version was not the hardest to get running, even though it was one of the earliest. It wasn't the hardest. But I did have at least one person ask about, are we going to be providing ways to roll all of these seeds? Not directly, no. Actually, version 2 and version 1 all the way up through version 7, you can just download the executable off of Dessyreqt's GitHub page, and they run today just as well as they did previously. It's just a small window, you choose what you want, and you get your seeds out. For the versions developed by VTorb, there was the website is the primary source, and they're a bit more complicated to get running. You cannot just fire up, well, I mean, you can fire up the entire website, but it's not just a simple case of running a single executable. But after the event is over, I'm happy to release the code that I have to run these in Docker containers for those that are familiar with that technology. Yeah, the hardest version to get running, I can't remember the exact version number. I think it ended up being V27, and that is for no reason other than I already had a working infrastructure for V18 and V24, and V27 completely changed the website software stack. And therefore my current, as I was upgrading the versions, that no longer worked, and so that took me a while. I think we just missed the switch there, unfortunately. In terms of the rest, some versions of the randomizer are in Python, and they were expected to be on an earlier version of Python, which I didn't have installed, so I just updated a few small bits of code there. Otherwise, they're relatively easy to get running as well. So Akuhai's following the same route that Gilgamesh took here, gone right side, got out a big key, gonna head straight to the boss and kill the boss, and then gonna clear out the rest of the dungeon. Yeah, indeed. There was a big tournament some players may be familiar with on V18, and in fact, for a while, I think at the 5-year point, the main Discord randomizer devs actually also had a version of a V18 website up and running where you could generate them kind of legacy seeds. If someone wants to take the work that I did and do that, feel free. So Gilgamesh heading up Dark Death Mountain here. We're going to find out that we're going to clear out the light world first, and then we're going to find out that our medallion is indeed vanilla. We don't have it on Gilgamesh's side, and he may well realize where it is and where we need to go. Oh, Gilgamesh takes death there. Unfortunate. not having that tempered sword like Gilgamesh did is unfortunate. So we might see Aku clear out the front here while we're on this side now. Yeah, while we see Gilgamesh heading up Dark Death Mountain here. Even if we could get into ZeldaSpeedRuns, we don't have that kind of Samaria yet, so not much we would be able to do with that. But we'll be able to clear out Hookshot Cave while we're up here. And get our 2 items here from Super Bunny Cave. Rod, but of the wrong color. Akuhai is just using the key here, not to bother. We're going to get one in a refund. We were pretty high up the bridge there. I don't think we had to worry about getting a quadrant glitch there. There is our Cane of Samaria on Gilgamesh's side. Doesn't really help, we don't have the medallion. But Juhaish has headed to the boss here instead of going for our fire rod. I am minorly wondering if this is a tracker calculating dungeon items wrong issue. And therefore opening the getting the small keys is not actually counting, and therefore we're accidentally counting them as non-dungeon items, but we'll have to see. Quite possible we go back in for it afterwards. Having a key left over here and 2 checks you haven't done is suspicious, so... Nicely done on the turtles from Akuhaish's side, and Gilgamesh is going to head here and start clearing up some of these pendant dungeons which we have left. And check Maya and realize that we need ether. Going for the hammer this time on Helmasaur King, and takes down Helma very quickly. Very nice on Aku's side. Moment of truth to decide whether we're going back into the dungeon. If we're not going back into the dungeon, we have a slight concern. Given all of the issues in the seed and the tracker not working, nobody is at blame here if we miss something important. Gilgamesh whittling down these locations, desperately hoping we don't have to go to Catfish and Zora. Yeah, Gil skipping Zora had nothing to do with the seed. Okay, Akuhaish goes back in. This is good news. and we switch to the bombs. This is very good news. Okay, so this will give Akuhai's Fire Rod, puts him right on the path. Just has to hope that we can realize that we can go back into, attempt to go back into Thieves Town and see our maiden this time, instead of an invisible follower that we can't see and don't know is there. Yeah, Gil heading into left side swamp here. Not really preferable to Zora Catfish, in my opinion, but Gil is obviously not a fish person. Okay, Akuhai's going to take that Fire Rod, most likely going to head straight to Skullwoods here. Potentially do Smith beforehand for the Tempered Sword. Also has Powder, so it would be a nice little combo of getting all of that done in one go. And if at this point you've realized that some of the things aren't randomized, you could be thinking that Half Magic and Tempered Sword are quite nice here. Yeah, and so this is a good call on Akuhai's side. Get the extra weaponry. The book is vanilla, so this is actually Gil's problem. Because the book is vanilla in the library, and the boots are disguised as flippers on Zora, and the two medallions that Gil needs, one is on Catfish, being Quake, and the other Ether is on Ether Tablet because they are not shuffled at this point in time. So Gilgamesh is really hard locked by them, that pair of boots and the Quake on Catfish. And it currently looks like we're going to check every other thing possible before we decide to go and do that. Akuhai is going to get rudely told that they're not finished with his sword yet, and we need to go and green transition. It's all of these little quality of life things that you do not think about when you are playing the modern versions of the randomizer. So much work has gone into improving it, making it much more user-friendly for people. And just cutting off some of these little time steals that otherwise you would not have to worry about. Otherwise you'd have to worry about. So Akuhai upgraded to the Tempered Sword there. Not going to do Magic Bat by the looks of it. Avoiding all of these heart pieces has put both of our runners on very low health. I mean, we're not tragically low, but we're not particularly healthy either. Okay, excellent. Akuhai heads back into Thieves Town. Gil is doing the unthinkable here and actually heading to Catfish, it seems, and Zora doesn't look happy about it at all. Of course, the question is does Gil get Quake here and then beeline straight to Turtle Rock and say, I don't need weapons on Zora? Moment of truth. It's a clown seed, a clown root is perfectly justified. We get our Quake. And we safe quit, leaving our boots on Zora for a second time. Okay. So we have a good race. There we go. We have a Maiden now on Akuhaish's side. So on Akuhaish's side, we do have the Quake Medallion, that might push us up the mountain. Of course, we still need Ether. We know that Ether is on Ether Tablet, but we need to go to the mountain first anyway to get Samaria, so this actually works out pretty well for Akuhaish. So most likely going to clear up Thieves Town here, head into Skullwoods and do that. Still need to clear up Ice Palace if I'm not mistaken as well. So Gil very decidedly went to Waterfall Ferry, saw there were no chests, and just left. So it just happens to be unfortunate for him that the boots are in just the worst possible place. Akuhaish bringing the count up to 3 crystals. We'll ignore what the tracker's doing, it doesn't know. So Gilgamesh can fully clear Turtle Rock at this point in time. Nothing needed, don't need those boots here. Akuhaish activating the flute. That'll get us to Ice Palace a bit easier and let us move around faster. Aku does know that he has the mitts now. We got them the second mitts, so we can easily also go check the Maya area as and when we want to. Yeah, and as we expected, Akuhaish heads over to Skullwoods here. Just needs that Samaria and Ether for go mode. I didn't mention it earlier, but another quality of life thing that we're missing, of course, is MSU1 packs. So we are sticking with the vanilla version of the music, not out of desire, but out of necessity. Admittedly, some people much prefer the vanilla music as well. But if you wanted to change that up, you couldn't do it even if you wanted to. And we, of course, I've mentioned it already, but we see some slowdowns every now and again. A couple of years back, Fast Run was introduced, which speeds up a lot of the areas where we may otherwise have lag and prevents that for us. So I'm not going to spoil too much, but I will also say that we have some streams later on in the series as well, where we'll also have other developers joining us. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll have Dessyreqt on comms later tonight with Tyler Sol, and hopefully we'll get some juicy lore and information about the early randomizer development from Dessyreqt, and later on we'll also have some other developers chiming in when their versions of the randomizer, or the versions that they've played a hand in developing, are being played as well. So hopefully a nice little extra where you get to hear some about what's been developed and how it was developed and what people were thinking about at the time, things like that. Okay, there is Aku with crystal number 4. 2 dungeon clears ahead, but 1 crystal behind of Gil. Gilgamesh getting every prize possible there. The 20 rupees, the 8 bomb pack, the fairy, and the big magic. Gold Sword Slash being introduced, being tempered was a more modern change. We did not see that this case because we didn't get the Gold Sword, but for those that are not familiar with the vanilla game, the Gold Sword Slashes do the same damage class damage as the spikes to Mothula, and of course because there are spikes everywhere, Mothula is coded to not take damage from that damage class, otherwise the boss would kill itself on the spikes. As a consequence, if you use the Gold Sword and slash the boss, that same damage class is done in these early versions and in the NMG game, and so no damage is done. And you can slash as much as you want, you won't do any harm to the boss. Indeed, Tempered Spin being in the same damage class as those as well. Okay, we're going to see Aku check this last chest, and then see where we're going to head to. Dark Death Mountain is still item dense. We know that Samaria is there. So we know that's going to be necessary. And Aku doesn't have too much of the world left open either. We have the desert area, of course. Might decide to do that before going up the mountain, just to check if we what medallion we might need. Of course, Aku hasn't seen either of the medallions yet, so might not consider the fact that these are vanilla in this version of the randomizer. I'm also realizing now that Tyler is going to have a much easier time on comms later when he's got all of this information from Race 1 and from myself. He'll also have Dessyreqt with him, which is going to be very nice to have all of this other information. If Dessyreqt, of course, remembers what was changed and when. But the changelog is available. Hopefully we'll also hear some funny anecdotes of the versions we don't see. That was one of the other things I'm kind of hoping from some of the randomizer developers that we're going to get on in the commentary, is to see, yeah, we see a lot of things, we've seen a lot of development, but what haven't we seen? What changed? That what was tried that was never released, and what bugs were seen along the way, this kind of stuff. Yeah, so Akuhai's picking up our ether off of ether tablet, very nice. Another change in the modern version of randomizer, of course, is we have the option to toggle what we call reduce flashing, which just decreases the risk for some of our photosensitive players. In cutscenes like that, we'll see that again during the Misery Maya opening cutscene. Yeah, our boots are on Zora, disguised as a pair of flippers. Gilgamesh has gone to the area twice, admittedly. We went first to check Pyramid Fairy and realized that chests were not shuffled. And we went back a second time and got Catfish, and then left after we got Quake to come and open TR. We don't have too much left, so Gil is probably going to be heading back to Zora at some point soon. But I think there's a couple of checks that are unfortunate, but doable as well. Akuhai is going to pick up Cane of Samaria here, and that is going to put Akuhai into go mode. Having that Ether medallion, having that Quake medallion. gotta say goodbye to TR for the moment. We've got to finish off Ice Palace and Misery Maya. Yep, Smiths actually don't check for your sword at all, if I'm not mistaken, which means you can give them a gold sword and downgrade your gold sword to tempered sword. Relatively sure that max swords percent is a speedrun category that involves doing that. Gil heading into Tower of Hera here. Unfortunately, can't check that medallion, that tablet. Not that it matters. We don't get a hint regardless, but we don't have the book, and we can't check it anyway. Aku going into Maya here. Now, Aku is in go mode, so we might just find this to be a very quick clear of the dungeon. Find that big key, head to the boss. So for people that might be watching that have some experience with the ALttPR randomizer, these races are not. You don't require to stream them. They're not ranked or anything. This is just for fun. So if you decide you like the idea of playing through some of the history, then feel free to come and join us in some of these races. They'll be firing off twice a day. One at 8 PM CEST for the Europeans and one at 9 PM EST for the Americans. I'll also say a special thanks to Hi, I'm Cody, who runs the AvianArt website, who took the patches I gave him for all of the different versions of the randomizer and put us up special patch pages for them. Aku gets the big key there. Gil clearing out Spike Cave. Another 300 rupees. We're already at the cap, so wasted lot of money right there. So Gilgamesh saves, quits, and ends up on the pyramid. We haven't killed Aga, but it looks like we had a very close place for first and second place here. As ZeldaSpeedRuns is updating us that our first two races are finished. Nine seconds between first and second place. Okay, so Gilgamesh heading to Zora. The big question being is, do we pick up our second pair of flippers and get our boots? We have not stood to get them automatically. I'm sure Gil is loving the text boxes here, making this check even longer than it normally is. And there we go, flippers into boots. Second time this seed, and that doesn't necessarily put Gil in go mode, but pretty close to it if he's realized where everything is at this point in time. This is not an immediately obvious win for Aku. Gil does still have to realize we need that book. We know we need ether. We just have to, of course, realize that that's probably where it is. Yeah, the dead priest, something we don't see in modern versions of the randomizer either. Lots of little things. I still say the dancing mushroom is should come back. Just you know, whatever sprite is there, just jiggling like the mushroom does would be excellent. We haven't seen a red boomerang actually. We have seen 2 blue boomerangs. Whether that means our red boomerang doesn't exist is quite possible. Normally we would be obviously throwing that into a fairy to get that upgraded, and so I don't think either of our runners is going to be doing that. So Akuhai's heading into Ice Palace. Gilgamesh heading up to get Ether, has realized at this point in time what is going on by the looks of it. Doesn't have much left to check anyway. And there's our Ether. So Aku is in go mode here, doesn't necessarily have to be checking these things, could potentially be hoping for something health-wise or something. A few heart containers kicking around. Heart pieces kicking around, sorry. Heart containers, indeed, they're on the bosses. Nice bird toss there from Gilgamesh. Very quick icebreaker from Aku, and skipping these chests, we know we're in go mode, we're just gonna blitz our way through. So this has definitely been an interesting one to watch. A lot of rediscovering versions of how things are and where things are, what's randomized, what's not randomized. As you can see, a lot has changed compared to the modern day rando compared to this version. Yeah, unfortunately, Akuhai still has to clear out Ice Palace and then TR. TR is a rather painfully slow dungeon to navigate through. That was an unfortunate case of the sprite being the gloves early on for Akuhai, not realizing that he had the mitts all along and not just the regular gloves. There is our Maya Big Key on Gilgamesh's side, and gonna head straight to the boss with that. Of course, we still got to get to GT afterwards, find our big key. Not too much longer to go before we get there. Yeah, I did briefly spoil it earlier, but tomorrow we'll be playing version 18 of the VT randomizer. There's a very early version. It's one of the earliest commits, actually, of that particular version. And I squeezed in another version later, so otherwise we'd have been playing version 7. But I do actually have a pair of version 7 seeds generated, so if anyone wants, I'll post them at some point. Version 18, which is the one we'll be playing tomorrow, was released on April 3rd, 2017, so less than a year after this version. But in that time, we made some very large changes. The biggest one being that we moved from a standalone application to a website instead. And the addition of open mode. We don't have to play standard anymore. We have options on how we can start our game. We don't have to save Zelda and go see our uncle. We'll be able to just explore freely from Link's house. Yeah, the early versions of the early version numbers were a bit loose, let's say. The earliest versions were named based off of the logic version rather than, let's say, the feature set, and so version 18 was just because there was a lot of iteration quickly between version 7, which was the last version that Dessyreqt worked on, and the first version that went on with the was early hosted on the VT website. The early versions of the VT website also brought in difficulty changes, so having expert and hard difficulties, where we had magic consumption rates changed, heart pieces changed, the lack of silver arrows, for example. We won't be seeing any of those. We're keeping these as tame as we can. It did also introduce glitched logic, which is I am a prominent glitch player, so nice to see that we had these in right from the beginning. But indeed, version 18 is what we're playing. I mentioned this earlier, but version 18 was the last version before we switched to a new item placement algorithm, and that means that we still have very hype caves. Yeah, so indeed, everybody, this is less of a bug and just the fact that they were your actual mitts, but we are speculating that the palette only shows you what you would get next, and more that they were your actual mitts, so they just showed up as a glove because you didn't have a glove yet. And that the mitts that you got in Hype Cave were actually your gloves, but they showed up as your mitts because you had your mitts. Luckily, they did not downgrade you, though. Unfortunately for Akuhaish did not realize that the mitts were the mitts, and went on to kill the other 2 Light World bosses and Aga to get our Dark World access. So Gilgamesh here has cleared up everything, got 7 crystals, and is going to head to Ganon's Tower now. Akuhaish, meanwhile, is going to clear out and finish off Turtle Rock. Yeah, so if you want to get your guesses in chat for the location of the GT Big Key, in terms of the number of chests that Gilgamesh is going to check here. Yeah, I mean, the main tourney devs are taking on, or the main tourney admins, sorry, are taking on their feedback for the next version of main tournament. We're seeing some pretty fun seeds here. Why not? Why don't we just suggest, you know, roll a dice at the beginning, and that's the version that you play? Seems like we'd have no problems with that in a main tournament. The randomizer indeed. we've got top left DM room for our big key. Gil is going to check these chests for absolutely no reason. There's nothing else we can get at this point in time. And it's going to be the first head up the GT climb. There is our 5th place finisher, Dr. John, with a time of 1:44.29. The fact that our 1st and 2nd place finishers were so close in this race, Jamo with a 1:31.33 and Zinishwa with a 1:31.42, is particularly impressive. Getting used to all of these changes and coming out with a competitive time is impressive. And as much as I'd have loved to have been playing this seed instead of commentating has been an absolute blast. So I cannot complain at all. This has been a lot of fun to watch and commentate and see our runners experience things as we go on. No, dig game and chest game, I do not have items. Gilgamesh did do chest game 3 times, maybe 4 times. Dig game twice, all of the digs that we could get in the 30 seconds. Akuhaish did chest game once, and I don't remember if we saw dig game on Akuhaish's this side. Yeah, pretty reasonable to give up after you don't get your expected item. Okay, and Akuhaish picks up his 7th crystal, completing out the dungeons, and is going to head over to GT, which is just a short jog over the bridge after this crystal cutscene. Gilgamesh checking, doesn't have any potions, so gonna have to be a little bit reserved with our magic, but we do have a lamp and fire rod, nothing too much to worry about. Akuhaish saving that 7th maiden and is heading over. This is true, but at this point in time, the menu does just pop up. Hopefully everyone that's played this seed will appreciate the quality of life we have in the newer versions a bit more after playing through this seed. Akuhaish heading left side straight away after Hope Room and nope, just straight away, sorry. And gonna get that big key pretty quickly. Just a single climb behind Gilgamesh. There is our 6th place finisher, Tristinian, with a time of 1 hour 48 and 2 seconds. Cross Keys indeed was 2018. Gilgamesh with the triple double, finishing out the Aga 2 fight. Just Ganon to clear out here, while Akuhaish heads up the climb. Hopefully we've all enjoyed watching this very first version of the randomizer. As I've said a few times, the next 10 days will bring progressive increases to the version, which means progressively more complicated and newer settings. Ending with some of the newest innovations, but we've got a lot of days to go between now and then. So, entrance existed back first in July of 2017. I have all this information because I looked up a lot of versions while I was building all of these seeds. And keys was not introduced until November of 2017. So, but that was only, they were kind of separate at that point. So, the entrance randomizer was a separate code base, the Python version, and the website got keys modes in November 2017. The keys modes didn't come over to the entrance version until March of 2018. Gilgamesh with our silverless cannon decided we weren't gonna get that red bomb and gonna get our silvers or gold sword. So the Ganon warps are random per player in this version, and there we go. Gilgamesh finishes out the seed with an official time of 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 53 seconds. Get your GGs in chat for Gilgamesh. Akuhai is just finishing up the climb, so not that far behind. Not sure if Gil is going to join us or not. Gil is in the waiting room. And here he is. GG's Gilgamesh.
Hi.
How did you find this?
I am glad we play Rando in 2026 and not 2016 is where I'm at.
So I think the question on everybody's mind is how did you leave your boot? You left your boots twice.
I did. So I just wasn't thinking about Zora because I had sussed out at that point that the visible items were all vanilla, and I was like, oh, Zora's a visible item. It's vanilla. And I already had the flippers, so I was just like, oh, I don't need to do Zora. Like, it doesn't, there's nothing there for me. And then it turns out, for some reason, that Zora is the one visible item that is not vanilla.
So not everything. So Bottle Vendor was 10 arrows instead of the bottle.
I wouldn't
This
consider
one.
Bottle Vendor a visible item because you don't pick it up, right?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. You will have noticed that Zora actually threw flippers at you, which
I did
immediately
notice that.
turned into your boots.
Just like Saha gave me gloves, even though it was myths.
Yeah, indeed. So you're lucky in the fact that you actually realized that they were your mitts. Akuhaish, on the other hand, assumed that they were, in fact, just gloves, and went through the whole rigmarole of killing both other pendant bosses to get Master Sword off of Ped, to kill Aga to get Dark Codex.
So I got saved by my auto tracker there because it put myths on the auto tracker. I was like, wait a second, what? And then I menued and saw that they were in fact myths. So.
Yeah. The same happened for Akuhaish, but Aku seemed to think that was a genuine tracker bug and fixed it on the tracker instead.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I checked the menu, because I was like, I don't trust anything right now, so I want to see what the game actually thinks I have.
That is a perfectly reasonable response to have to a game like this in such an early version. Yeah, so I'm trying to think what else we saw on your side. Obviously, a lot of... Yeah. Well, you missed a couple of, let's say, Easter eggs or bugs that we saw over on Akuhaish's side.
So I did hear about the Thieves Town Maiden from my chat after I finished.
Yeah, okay, and there we go with Akuhaish finishing out with Ganon, so get your GGs in chat for Akuhaish, who is going to finish with an official time of 1 hour, 55 and 50 seconds. And we'll come back to the Maiden thing in a second if we get Akuhaish to join us in the chat as well. Yeah, 0 blue balls is another thing in this seed. They were patched out in the earliest versions, weren't added back in until the website versions. So we did have to do Ago on Akuhaish's side, but didn't have to worry about it too much.
Yeah, there was a lot of... It's funny, I think it was Will in my chat who mentioned it, but I unironically said, is this even randomized, like, multiple times during the seed, like, for the first time ever.
Yeah, well, surprise, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the Maiden, there is an invisible follower that you get when you save quit out of the Master Sword pedestal area, if I'm not mistaken. And if you have that invisible follower, followers don't show up. This means you can't open Pod, you don't get Kiki, and it means you get to the Maiden cell and you have no Maiden.
What is the invisible follower for, like in the vanilla game?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was like something to trigger because you're supposed to like... Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
There are a couple of other examples of invisible... There we go. Kara joining us in your chat to tell us it gives you text boxes to bug you every so often to remind you what you're supposed to be doing.
Gotcha. The little pop-up saying, "Oh, you should go to the Master Sword or go to Sanctuary or whatever." Yeah. Yeah.
So there we go. Luckily, by defeating another boss and getting a crystal, Akuhaish clears the invisible follower and actually did Swamp after not being able to clear Thieves Town, and that cleared the invisible follower, letting him go into Pod, and then luckily going back in a second time for the Fire Rod, putting us to Skullwards, and then into Thieves Town.
Very excited to open up a small key in Dark Maze. That was fun too.
Yeah, that was another great one. Okay, and here we are. We're going to be joined by Akuhaish. GG's, Akuhaish.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was just explaining a few things, and we'll go over them just briefly again. So, I'll first ask, how was your experience? Did you enjoy this version 2 of Randomizer?
I did. I took no notes or anything before going through it.
Yeah.
So it do the blind thing, whatever.
That's the best way. The best way to play this. I think. So we'll
like a mystery seed almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what's going to happen. So the one thing I'll cover that I just covered already very briefly was the missing maiden. So in your case, we're pretty sure you got an invisible follower when you save quit out of the Master Sword pedestal area, and this prevents you from the maiden existing, and actually prevents Kiki from showing up either. You eventually cleared that when you killed Argus and got the crystal cutscene, and that gets rid of the invisible follower, allowing your other followers to show back up.
Okay.
This is fixed in the very next version of the randomizer, I think, but this is version 2, so we get all of our bugs. The other thing that unfortunately hit you, and a few other people realized, was the glove you got off of Saha was actually your mitts, even though it showed up as just a glove. So you did have Dark World access very early, but you also got lucky in the fact that you could do the other 2 Light World dungeons to get your Master Sword to kill Aga to get your Dark World access, and you just so happen to have the hook shot to go via Vu and get your hammer and mitts.
I didn't see anything else that showed it wasn't progressive, so I just assumed the tracker was messed up when it showed mitts.
That's a totally reasonable thing to be thinking at that point in time. So on Gil's side, Gil decided early on that Zora probably wasn't going to give him anything because we already had flippers and most visible items were not randomized, and that unfortunately left the boots on Zora for I think
it sure did.
I think an hour and 40 was around when we went back.
Yeah,
or something
the
like
boots
that.
were essentially my go mode, and I think I hard last located that because the only other non-visible item I had left at that point, I think, was the one item in the front of desert.
Yeah.
I was just seeing pieces of hardware not randomized.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. No randomized heart standing items, no quick swap. You get to see them bottles a billion times when you're navigating through the menus.
Yeah, I went over those bottles way more times than I wanted to as I was using the menus.
Well, I am very glad that you guys joined and that you had hopefully fun playing this seed. I
was missing the advancements we're used to today.
Yeah, of course. It makes total sense. You get used to it. I mean, the changes were made for a reason, right? The quality of life it is in the name. It is a good quality of life improvement, and we enjoy playing with them, and that's why they stay around. And takes a bit of getting used to when you're just thrown in at the deep end and say, nope, none of this works anymore. The vanilla swords was, of course, another thing.
Right,
Gil...
I figured that out.
Yeah, Gil did not get Master Sword and went straight from Fighter Sword to Tempered.
Yeah, I had the Dark World access, so I wasn't sure if swords were randomized until that point, and then I was like, well, I might as well do Smith's Chain while I'm here. And then once I got that, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure these are vanilla. So,
did either of you consider going to get your gold sword and silvers from Pyramid Fairy?
Nah, I was never gonna do that.
I walked into Waterfall Fairy Cave and I was like, I don't remember how to do this. I'm gonna leave all of this.
Gil, on the other hand, did throw the bow at the fairy. Oh no!
I was just curious to see.
Yeah.
Well, I was just smashing through the thing. I wasn't sure what it was saying. So.
Didn't decide to brush up on your Japanese before you started playing.
That was a big blind spot on my part.
Yeah, of course, that's another thing that we didn't mention was the text boxes and Japanese text everywhere. We had no hints, nothing.
Practice my button mashing.
Yep, indeed. For Gil, it didn't matter, but you couldn't ask what was on each of the tablets. There was no hints there, no blind pun.
I looked at one tablet.
Yep. Yeah, and a couple of people got our red boomerang, it seems, which is also a Waterfall Fairy upgrade if you throw your blue boomerang in. You did find in different blue boomerangs. I can't remember if you guys got both the blue boomerangs. I guess, Gil, you might have.
I don't remember.
I don't either. It was after I went to the Waterfall Fairy Cave.
Yeah. Good. I don't think I have too much else to add. I thank you both for playing and being on Restream. I hope that everybody continues to enjoy this event. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but for the people that have tuned in and for you guys that are now in commentary, tomorrow's version will be version 18 of the VT randomizer.
Oh, Hype Cave, let's go!
Yep. So you can get all of your progression items from Hype Cave and then finish your game very quickly, most likely.
That was also why I took Hookshot over as well, was to kind of rush Hype Cave.
Yeah, because this early version has a similar fill algorithm. So
not on this seed, it didn't.
You got 600 rupees.
That's
that
true.
Immediately
That's true.
capped you out to 999 because you're not allowed more than that. So yeah, there is a quick reminder that at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time we have our second race of this version. It will be a different seed, but it is the same version of the randomizer, so expect to see all the same shenanigans. Tyler Salt in chat will be on comms with the man himself, Dessyreqt, who was the developer of this version. So if you're around, I highly suggest that you tune in and you hear hopefully some interesting dev comments about the early development of this. And yeah, we'll be running new versions every day. There'll be an announcement in the Tark server for the version that is going to be played the next day, and it will, if there is a restream, if we can get the people to do it, because I'm not going to be comming 10 races, then hopefully they'll announce it at the same time, but otherwise there'll be the announcements in the Tark server. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you, more of you, and the same ones of you in the next races, and with that, I think we'll sign off. So thanks again for playing. Thank you, Eclectic, for doing the tracking for today's seed. And hope everyone else has a good rest of your day.
Nothing to add from my end, so thank you all so much, and see you later at 1 a.m. PC for Game 2 of Day 1. We're gonna raid over to Willard, because why not? He's playing cross keys, so see you all there. Thank you.